I arrived in sandals and a sundress. They handed me an apron. The breeze off the ocean smelled like rosemary and salt, and the beach villa gleamed under the late afternoon sun, white stucco, glass railings, and a long wooden deck facing the waves. I parked a block away because the driveway was already full, carried my own bag up the hill, and rang the bell with the same flutter in my chest I always got before a family gathering. I hadn't seen any of them in months. Camilla answered the door wearing a silk romper and a champagne flute. "Finally," she said, kissing the air beside my cheek. "Go drop your stuff in the laundry room. Mom's got things moving fast. You look comfy." I blinked. "Laundry room?" "Yeah, it's where we're keeping everyone's stuff. Hurry, we're about to start sunset cocktails." Inside, music floated through the open-concept kitchen, where two men in black polos were arranging canapes. Beyond them, the living room buzzed with extended family, all dressed for a Vogue spread. My mother, Lorraine, stood by the bar adjusting a centerpiece, eucalyptus and white orchids. She looked up as I entered and smiled with a kind of distracted relief. "There you are," she said, brushing my shoulder. "Could you help the chef with the platters? You're so good with timing." I froze. "Sure," I said before I could think. The chef, young, tattooed, clearly busy, handed me a stack of plates. "Table's almost ready. Just place these down in sets of 4. I set my bag down next to a washer and started laying out plates while people mingled outside. No one noticed me, or if they did, they assumed I belonged to the kitchen. The sun dipped lower. Camilla emerged to cheers. Dad gave a toast, lifting his glass to our shining girl, and the whole deck clapped. I stood by the sliding doors, hands still damp from rinsing arugula. My name wasn't mentioned. When dinner was finally served, I squeezed into a spot near the grill, on a bench without a backrest. The main table was full. Someone had even printed place cards. I didn't see mine. Camilla opened gifts between courses. Spa vouchers, a custom necklace, a painting of her dog. Someone joked she should run for office. My mother beamed like she already had. Halfway through dessert, one of the catering staff tapped me gently on the arm. "Sorry," he said. "You're not supposed to stand here during service." I stared at him. I thought you were one of us," he stammered, looking down at the apron I hadn't realized I still wore. "It's okay," I said quietly. "You're not wrong." Later, when the plates were cleared and the music softened into jazz, I slipped out to the back balcony, watching the tide move in and out. My chest felt tight, not with anger, but with something slower, sadder. I thought about telling them, about announcing the promotion I'd worked 3 years for, the one that would finally let me leave my day job behind. I imagined my mother's polite smile, Camilla's bored blink. Behind me, a door opened. My mother's voice was soft. "Elise?" I didn't turn around. She walked closer, then paused. "Can you help with breakfast prep tomorrow? Mateo said he could use an extra pair of hands." I said nothing. "It'll mean a lot to your sister," she added. "This weekend is important." I turned slightly, just enough to look at her. "Is it not important to me?" She frowned gently. "Don't be difficult. You're always so helpful." Then she left. The waves below sounded like applause, but none of it was for me. There were 20 guests, one group chat, and I was in neither. I scrolled through my phone in the laundry room while the others laughed outside. No new texts, no updates, no ping from the Camilla weekend thread. I hadn't been invited to. Someone had posted boomerangs of champagne flutes clinking against a backdrop of sunset and white sand. I wasn't tagged. I wasn't in the frame. By the time I made it out to the deck, the sun had dipped into that golden hour photographers dream about. Long shadows, string lights overhead, white linens fluttering against the breeze. The tables were set for 20, one long table in the center, a smaller side table near the grill. I headed toward the big one, then hesitated. There was no place card with my name on it. Camilla stood at the head of the table, radiant in a pale yellow wrap dress, her arm looped through Mom's. She waved a glass in the air and beamed. To friendship, to sunshine, and to all of you who made this weekend unforgettable. Applause followed. I stayed at the edge of the deck, waiting, watching. Where should I sit? I asked one of the cousins gently. She blinked. Oh, I thought you were helping the chef. Then she smiled awkwardly. There's a spot over there. She pointed to the side table, the one without place cards. I sat down and tried to breathe. Tried not to look like I was waiting to be noticed. Dinner began in courses. Arugula salad with candied pecans, seared scallops over squash puree. Chef Mateo moved with fluid ease while servers in black moved between tables. Every time I took a bite, someone asked me to help. Could I grab more napkins? Pass the rosé? Get Camilla's jacket from inside? I did it, without a word. Midway through the main course, Camilla raised her glass again. And special thanks to our little helper, Elise. She turned to me with a grin, eyes sparkling, tone teasing. I don't know what we'd do without her. Laughter, a few polite claps. I smiled. Or something close to it. The world swam a little, not because of the wine, but from the pressure in my chest. I looked down at my plate, untouched. My fork sat where I'd left it 10 minutes ago. Later, while the others stood for group photos, by the pool I lingered near the buffet, pretending to clean, pretending not to notice that no one had asked me to join. I heard footsteps behind me, then Mateo's voice, low and careful. Hey, I just realized. I turned to face him. You're her sister, he said. I didn't know. I thought you were part of the service team. I nodded slowly. You're not the first to think that. He looked embarrassed. I'm sorry. They just said you'd be helping all weekend, that you liked staying busy. I didn't reply. Just gave a soft, practiced smile and turned away. Out on the deck, another photo flashed. Camilla laughed, hair catching the wind, surrounded by people who called her golden. Took off the apron, hung it over the back of a chair. Then I walked back inside, wondering if anyone would notice I was gone. You're not supposed to be in the kitchen, Mateo said gently, not looking up from the eggs he was folding in a copper bowl. But they insisted. The words floated over the hum of the espresso machine and the clatter of pans. Sunlight hadn't reached the beach yet. The sky outside was pale and waiting. Everyone else was still asleep or pretending to be, their late-night laughter now a distant memory. It was that soft, vulnerable hour before the world puts its makeup on. Stood in the kitchen barefoot, hair pulled back, sleeves rolled up. Out of habit, I had already chopped strawberries, set out dishes, and started the coffee. It was how I'd been raised. Thanksgiving, I did the pies. Christmas, the gravy, birthdays. I blew the balloons, never the candles. No one ever asked. I just filled in the gaps. I was the glue between broken chairs, the silent hand behind perfect moments. I've been in kitchens since I was 12, I said quietly, almost to myself. Mateo glanced at me, then back at the pan. Yeah, I figured. You move like someone who knows. There was something kind in his voice. No performance, no pretending he didn't notice what was happening. I set the bowl of cut fruit down with more force than necessary. Yesterday, did they really tell you I was part of your staff? He hesitated, then nodded once. My fingers curled against the edge of the counter. I swallowed hard, though nothing in my mouth needed swallowing. They said you were the quiet sister, that you don't like being the center of attention, that you're more comfortable helping out, he continued, voice low. I didn't. No. I mean, who'd expect to be asked to treat a guest like crew? There was a sharp pulse in my ears, like a faucet dripping inside my chest. Drip, drip, drip. I have the message if you want to see it, he said after a pause. I didn't answer, but I think he saw it in my face. Whatever passed for a silent yes. He pulled out his phone, scrolled for a second, then turned the screen to me. It was a forwarded email. From my mother. Subject line, about Elise. She won't mind helping out. She's not the centerpiece type. She actually thrives when she has a job. Plus, it keeps things smooth between the girls. The girls. like I was a variable to manage, like I was a risk that needed to be tamed with chores. A breath caught in my throat. I stared at the words, my own mother's handwriting in Arial font, so casual, so clean. It didn't hurt like a slap. It hurt like an old wound reopened, familiar, dull, but still bleeding. She said that? I asked, though I already knew. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Behind us, a door creaked. A rush of perfume and energy entered the room before Camilla did. "Oh my God, look at this!" she exclaimed, phone already in hand, camera app open. "This lighting is amazing. Elise, come take a photo with me. This will be such a sister moment." I turned toward her slowly. She was already posing beside me, angling her face, pulling me by the elbow like we were best friends instead of whatever we were now. Her voice was sugary, performative. Everything about her felt rehearsed. I looked at Matteo. He looked away. "You okay?" Camilla asked, blinking at my expression, clearly unused to seeing me without a mask. I gave her the smallest smile. "Sure." She snapped the photo anyway, holding the phone high, then lower, checking angles, smoothing her hair with one hand. I didn't move. I didn't blink. And just like that, I became a prop again, a silent backdrop in her perfect story. A living. Proof of my own smallness. But something shifted in me, standing there with the scent of eggs and strawberries in the air, the truth glowing from Matteo's screen. For the first time, I didn't feel invisible. I felt used, and I wasn't sure which was worse. If I'm just the help, why did you invite me at all? The words left my mouth before Camilla could raise her glass, before the toast, before the next round of curated claps and filtered gratitude. I hadn't planned to speak. I hadn't planned anything. But something had broken quietly inside me the night before, and now the silence felt heavier than any scream. We were gathered for brunch on the villa's back patio, under white umbrellas, that fluttered like sails in the wind. A long oak table stretched between us, covered in champagne flutes, passion fruit tarts, delicate china. Everything was staged to look perfect, like a lifestyle spread from some influencer's blog. Everything except the truth. Camilla stood at the head of the table, radiant in another designer dress, one hand on her hip, the other wrapped around her mimosa. She blinked when I spoke, her lips still parted from where she was about to begin. Saw the twitch in my mother's jaw before I heard her voice. "Elise, sweetie, now's really not—" "No," I said, still calm. "Now is exactly the time." I stood slowly. My napkin fell to the ground and I let it stay there. No one moved. "I know this weekend is about Camilla, and that's okay. She should feel special," I began. "But for 2 days, I've been mistaken for hired staff. I've been asked to refill drinks, fold napkins, prep breakfast, carry bags, and not once did anyone ask why." Somewhere down the table, a fork clinked against porcelain. "I got a promotion last week," I said, looking straight at my parents. "A real one, full salary bump, new title, new team. It's something you would have told the whole extended family about, if it had happened to Camilla." I glanced at her then. Her smile had flattened. She crossed her arms. But I didn't say anything, not because I didn't want to celebrate, but because I already knew how this weekend would go. I just didn't realize how far you were all willing to go to make sure I stayed small. Camilla scoffed. "Seriously? Elise, this is my birthday. What are you even doing right now?" I turned to the one person at the table who had told the truth. "Matteo," I said softly. He didn't hesitate. The chef stepped forward, pulled out his phone and handed it to me. "I want you all to see something," I said, and turned the screen outward. A few leaned forward. Most didn't. "It's an email, from Mom, sent to Matteo before the weekend began. She said I wasn't the centerpiece type, that I thrive when I have a job, that making me work in the kitchen would keep things smooth. Between the girls." A ripple moved through the table. No one dared call it a gasp. She didn't ask me, she just decided, and the rest of you let her. My father looked down. My aunt fiddled with her napkin. Camilla gave a dry laugh. "Oh, come on. You're really going to do this? On my birthday?" My voice didn't rise, but it deepened. You erased me and then handed me a tray. Lorraine finally stood. Her eyes flashed. You always make things so dramatic, always finding a way to make it about you. I didn't make anything, I said. I just stopped covering for what already was. A silence settled, deeper than the others, the kind that makes even the birds stop. I handed Mateo back his phone, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, and walked away. I walked through the dining space, through the sliding glass doors, down the hall past carefully arranged flowers and smiling vacation photos that had no trace of me. Each step was slow, deliberate. No one followed, not even her. And as the sea breeze hit my face and the door clicked softly behind me, I realized I hadn't been uninvited. I'd just finally decided to leave. I was the only one not tagged, so I posted my own version. It started with a photo. Not one of the filtered, pre-approved pictures from Camilla's grid, no golden hour champagne clinks or mid-laugh candids under twinkle lights. Mine was taken at 6:03 a.m., with morning light slanting across the villa's marble countertop. A bowl of strawberries, a stack of plates. My hands still damp, arranging napkins in neat spirals before the guests ever woke up. I sat in a small cafe 2 blocks from the beach, the kind with mismatched mugs and indie music humming overhead. My coffee had gone cold. I didn't care. My laptop screen was filled with open tabs, one for the photo, one for the email, one for the caption. The email was the hardest to post. I'd read it at least a dozen times, thinking maybe I'd misinterpreted. That it had been a misunderstanding. That I was being sensitive. But it was there, plain as day. She's not the centerpiece type. She thrives when she has a job. It keeps things smooth between the girls. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then I typed. They flew me out for my sister's birthday. Rented a villa, hired a private chef, and told him I'd be helping. Not because I offered, but because I don't mind being useful. Here's what family looked like this weekend. I attached the photo, then the email, then a screenshot of a text from Mateo sent after I left saying, "You didn't deserve any of that. For what it's worth, I saw you." And then I added one last line. They called it family. I call it labor. I hit post. I didn't expect what happened next. At first, it was just a few likes, then a dozen comments, then hundreds. DMs from strangers, screenshots shared, reactions spilling in from people I'd never met. Siblings, cousins, former friends, even therapists. This is emotional abuse. You're not alone. Thank you for putting this into words. I was the Elise in my family too. By the time I finished my coffee, the post had been shared over 12,000 times. My inbox was overflowing. I scrolled through the comments slowly, half numb. Not because I didn't feel them, but because for the first time I felt seen. Not through the lens of obligation or performance, but as I really was. A woman who had spent years shrinking herself so others could feel bigger. My phone buzzed. "Mom," the message was short. "Take it down. This is humiliating. No apology, no ownership, just shame, redirected." I stared at the screen, thought of every time I'd said yes when I wanted to say no. Every family trip where I packed extra snacks, extra towels, extra patience. Every photo where I stood just out of frame, holding someone else's purse or plate. I locked the phone, set it down. Outside the cafe window, the sky had changed. The sun had shifted, casting softer shadows across the sidewalk. A little girl passed by, twirling in a glittery skirt, her mother carrying her backpack without complaint. I reached into my bag and pulled out my old camera. The one I hadn't touched in years, not since my love of photography turned into a tool for other people's memories. I took a photo of my coffee cup, my empty plate, the light on the window glass, my version of the moment, and for the first time in years, I didn't ask for anyone's permission to keep it. This year, I rented the same beach, alone, same stretch of sand, same rhythmic hush of waves pulling across the shore, but everything felt different. The villa was a few miles down, rented to someone else now, its balconies just barely visible from where I sat. I didn't need it. I had a modest Airbnb with peeling paint and a screen door that squeaked, and that was enough. I sat in a beach chair, legs stretched out, bare toes buried in warm sand. Next to me, a tiny blue radio playing soft jazz, a journal with sea-salted pages, and a cupcake in a paper box. Vanilla with pale pink frosting and one candle. No banner, no forced applause. The breeze was gentle, pulling at the edge of my sweater. I watched a sailboat drift lazily across the horizon and thought about how far I'd come. Not in miles, but in choices. In how many times I had said no this year. No to guilt, no to silence, no to letting someone else decide how I should exist. After that post went viral, the phone calls came. Some angry, some quiet. My father emailed to say I was being unfair. Camilla posted a passive-aggressive Instagram story about some people needing attention. My mother sent one more message, long, convoluted, full of conditional apologies. I didn't respond. I didn't delete the post either. A week later, I finally updated my LinkedIn. Made the promotion public. My inbox filled with congratulations, from coworkers, from strangers who read my story, from women who said I helped them name a pain they'd never had words for. Then came something bigger. I started sketching out a project, small at first, just a community group, a space for women like me, women erased by the people who were supposed to love them most, women who had learned to become useful instead of visible. I called it the Quiet Enough, a scholarship, fund and mentorship circle for daughters made invisible by design. The idea made me feel alive again. It wasn't about revenge, it wasn't even about healing, it was about creation. I had spent so much of my life being careful not to break anything. Now I wanted to build. A bark pulled my attention. Down the beach, a scruffy dog trotted toward me, tail swaying like it had no worries. It stopped a few feet away, sniffed the air, then flopped into the sand with a satisfied sigh. No collar. Just a wanderer, like me. I smiled, tearing off a bit of the cupcake's edge and offering it. The dog sniffed, then took it gently from my fingers. Beside me, on the sand, sat a small envelope. Mateo's name in the corner. No note inside, just a photograph. It was the one he'd snapped in the kitchen before brunch that day. The one where I wasn't smiling, where I wasn't performing, just existing. I placed the photo inside my journal. Then I struck a match and lit the single candle on the cupcake. No names, no drama, just me and the wind and the faint smell of vanilla and salt. I didn't close my eyes. I didn't make a wish. I already had what I came for. They called me selfish. I call it survival. And now I call it peace.